Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Edmonton Oilers Throwback 2010 franchise mode here in NHL 25. So last episode, if you did not catch it, we basically just did a little bit of a roster rundown on our own roster and rosters around the league. So we didn't simulate really too much except for the preseason. So I am pretty excited to obviously get started into year number 1 and seeing how this build simulates. Obviously, we have a lot of work to do with this roster. Eventually, down the road, we're going to have to start trading away some pieces and all that, which should be quite exciting. There's definitely some players that should be able to fetch us some decent returns. Ales Hemsky being probably the best of the bunch. Obviously, right now, Hemsky, I think, is a decent player to hold on to for a few years, but obviously once he's in like that last year of his contract, maybe that's the time to flip him because he should produce relatively well on this team. We also do have like Dustin Penner, who's decent, signed for a few years. He's going to be probably a decent chunk of value, my guess. Guys like Sean Horkov, I don't know if we're going to be able to eventually deal away just because of his no movement clause, but it does become a modified no trade clause in the final year of his deal, so maybe by year number, actually no, it's in the second last year of his deal, and by year number 5, maybe we could actually find a way to flip him away. So we'll see if we end up trading him or letting him be a Oiler for his entire career or something like that instead of what happened in real life where he ended up playing with like Anaheim. We do also have some other options that we could potentially trade away in these next few episodes and stuff. Guys like Mike Comrie's in the 1-year deal, so maybe he gets flipped this season depending on how he's simulating. He doesn't have the best durability, so I don't expect him to stay healthy all year round either. And then we also have like Ethan Morrow, who could probably get dealt because he's already 34. Defensively, guys like Sheldon Souray could be potentially dealt away. So we at least do have some assets that we could potentially ship out and bring in some good prospects or picks with. So excited to see what this team's going to be looking like, obviously, as these years go on. But anyways, before we get into assimilating some of year 1, which is the 09-10 season, let's get in your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode. And then we'll probably simulate like maybe to January 1st or around halfway point of the season. Really depends on how this team's doing, the amount of injuries and all that. So the first comment is from Jared the Rabbit, who says the first NHL game I saw in person featured the Oilers team, or this Oilers team. It was in the home game on October 16th, 2009, where the Oilers won 5-2 against the Wild. That memory is what I think of when I see this roster build. So that's pretty cool. So you said October 16th was the first ever game you went to against the Minnesota Wild. So what's actually kind of hilarious is we do play Minnesota early into the season. There is one on October the 12th, so we could say that technically, since you said that this was a home game for the Edmonton Oilers, we could say that this game on October 12th was the game that Jared was at. So we'll maybe take a look at the box score from that game just for a little extra something for this episode. Next comment is from Michael Dos, who says, as a Blackhawks fan, this brings back great memories. And yeah, of course it would bring back good memories for you guys being Blackhawks fans, just because obviously the 2010 Blackhawks were an insane team that won the Stanley Cup. No reason why they didn't win a Stanley Cup. They did get into a bit of contract issues and stuff in a way with the cap, I think, in the offseason, because I remember when they had to trade away like Dustin Byfuglien afterwards, when they had to trade away Andrew Ladd, and then they ended up playing in Atlanta for the last season in Atlanta's history. Then they went on to Winnipeg. So yeah, I do remember that offseason quite well, where they had to like deal with like the repercussions of having such a good team. The next comment is from Sam Taku, who says, even though you've done a throwback franchise mode with the Lightning, this is probably my favorite because of the strong memories I have from the time. If the Hawks are going to have Hammer Scratch, you should trade for him, as he'd be a solid top 4 option to build around. So yeah, in terms of Nick Hjalmarsson obviously being scratched in Chicago, it's not really ideal for his development to be a healthy scratch defenseman. I think he's going to fetch too much value right now, but obviously in the offseason, if the Hawks are dealing with cap problems, maybe we bring him in and then they could still hold on to somebody like Byfuglien or Ladd instead. So Nick Hjalmarsson's definitely somebody we could look into. I think Hjalmarsson, if I remember right, I feel like he was an RFA and San Jose sent him a qualifying offer, but Chicago matched it or something like that. Wasn't that a thing back in the day? I don't know if that was during this time period, like 2013 or something, but I do remember something like that happening. But yeah, Nick Hjalmarsson would be a solid defenseman to bring in. I feel like right now he probably has too much value that we'd have to give up something pretty strong to get him. Like if we decided to go to the 5 trade option right now with Chicago, I think probably waiting until the offseason might be the best bet for us to bring him in, but how many years does he even have on his contract? I don't even remember. 1 year left on an expiring deal. Then he's an RFA, but we might be able to get him from the RFA stats. But right now, hey, that's actually not that bad of an offer, but third rounders are kind of valuable in this a little bit. It would be 2 third-round picks and Marc-Antoine Pouliot, which Marc-Antoine Pouliot's not going to become much better than he currently is. So if you guys think a trade like this would be worth doing, let me know. Obviously, like I said, third-round picks are a little bit valuable in this first-year draft, not so much, but eventually down the road, those third-rounders you could probably get some pretty decent steals with, in my opinion. And the last and final comment is from Derek Ryan the GOAT, which is kind of funny name, interesting. He says, let's go Oilers on top. And yeah, let's hope that we could get this team on top at some point in time. Obviously, it's going to take a while because this roster is not super great on paper compared to other teams. But hopefully at some point we could get the Oilers a Stanley Cup win and not have to wait till like the present day and age, so to speak. So hopefully it doesn't take like 15 years for us to get to another Cup final, or actually, yeah, I guess 15 years to get to another Cup final, because 2010 plus the 2025 area, actually 2024 technically, so 14 years. If we could get to the finals in 14 years before 14 years, like the Oilers did in real life, then I would be definitely successful. So we'll see what ends up happening with this roster on paper. But before we actually get into simulating, I did want to hand out a little bit of player goals. I know some of you guys don't really care too much about this conversation stuff, but I do want to give out a couple player goals just to some of our higher end players, just to see if it helps out things. So on ice play, can I... Oh, I can't even give them a goal actually for the season now that we're actually right near the season. So never mind. Let's just go new topic. Guess we're not going to be able to give out player goals unless I have to be on the first day of the season to do that. Maybe I had to only do that during the preseason. So I should have done that in the last episode, I guess. Let's advance a day. Can I give any goals? Doesn't look like it. Yeah, I guess not. That's unfortunate. I was going to give like Hemsky some goals to try and achieve with like assist and all that, but guess I should have done that in the preseason instead. Oh well. Do we need to make any other line adjustments before we actually start simulating? I feel like our lineup is pretty well set because we do have a lot of our younger guys in the top 6 with some good veterans. Brule's obviously being a third line center. At some point, maybe we get him into the top 6 if we want to try and develop him even more so. Aside from that, there's not really too much else to worry about, I don't think, right? Let's see, our scratches. Are they going to complain about ice time? Not really. Okay, good. Stortini could probably be back in the minors, hypothetically, but I don't think there's anybody I would rather have as a healthy scratch. Like, maybe we could use Menard instead, but it's not like Stortini's a major prospect or anything, so let's get into some simulation. Like I said, we'll probably simulate maybe halfway point to the season. It really depends on how we're simulating at that point. But let's go to the game against the Minnesota Wild so we can maybe slow sim it just for Jared, because since Jared's a channel member and he's been a channel member for a while at this point, might as well show him what his first NHL game would have been like against Minnesota in this timeline. So I don't know if he remembers the actual score from the game he was at. I could actually probably take a look and see. You know what? Let's just find out what that game was like. So 2009-10 Edmonton Oilers. Let me look this up for a second here, so we can see what the score on the actual game in NHL history was like that he would have been at versus Minnesota. He said it was on October 16th, I think he said, right? Let me just double check. Yeah, October 16th, 2009. Oh, he said where they won 5-2 against the Wild. Who scored goals in that game? Just for fun. Just for fun. Mike Comrie scored for the Oilers first, then it was Penner, then Pouliot, then Brule. And then in the third period, you had Brunette scoring again, and then Penner and Brule. Damn, Brule had 2 goals. Damn, that's impressive. So Brule was off to a good start that year too. Okay, and the Oilers were actually 4-2-1 at that point in the early 2009-10 season. Then they just fell apart completely. So let's simulate up to this game against Minnesota. And like I said, we'll do a slow sim and see how it compares to that real game just for fun. Just because it might be a nice little extra thing. We do beat Minnesota in our first game of the season against them, and we're 4-0 to start the season. Hey, this might be realistic because our team should fall off. If our team doesn't fall off, we might need to make some trades to get them to fall off, but we are 4-0 to start the season. The real Edmonton Oilers were 4-2-1 in their first 7 games, so that's kind of interesting. Okay, let's get into this slow simulation game. Well, actually not slow sim, but we'll skip through each period individually. Let's see how close this is to the real game that Jared went to, just for fun, just for something extra. All right, first period. Let's see what happens. 1-1. Okay, there was no goals in the first period of the actual game, but it was Ethan Morrow and Mikko Koivu scored. All right, shots 10-9. Second period. 4-1 Oilers. Okay, Sure scores. Comrie does score in this game. And Comrie actually did score in the second period of this game, which is actually kind of hilarious. His goal was a minute 49 into the second period of this game, and he scores 2:42 left in the second period of this game. So that's interesting. And Al Shemsky scored to make it 4-1. So it looks like we're going to start the season off 5-0, which is kind of surprising. I actually should move my face down to here like the playoff scenario, even though it's not a playoff game. Let's see what happens third period. 5-2 final. It's the exact same score, but different players scoring. That's actually pretty sick. So there you go, Jared. There you go. James Shepard made it a 4-2 game. Patrick O'Sullivan made it 5-2. And that is the final. So we got the exact same results, just obviously some different scores in that one. That's pretty sick. That's pretty sick. Was not expecting the exact same result. So there you go. Comrie actually had multiple points in that game. Okay. All right. So we'll continue to simulate a little bit quicker now, but hopefully this team drops off because I don't really want to be a good team right out of the gate. I kind of want to have some really good picks, and we're starting the season 5-0, which should not really be the case. I don't really know what's making this team simulate good. If our young guys are just overproducing, maybe we just want to make our lines a lot worse or find a worse coach to make us tank. I'm not even too sure, but let's go to November the 1st, see how we do. Hopefully we run into some injury trouble too or something like that to make it a little bit easier for us to start losing games. There's our first loss of the season. It was against the Yotes of all teams. But we're still starting the season off way, way too strong here. Like, I might not simulate that much in this episode just because I want us to fall off a cliff. But there's 2 straight losses, so maybe the losses are coming now as we are 8-4. We lost 3 games in a row, so maybe this is finally the downfall for this team, which would be good because we're not trying to be good here early on. As much as it would be nice to already win a Stanley Cup, we don't really want to be good until we actually start drafting well and all that because this team is not built for long-term success right now at the moment. So 8-4, let's go one more month at least and see how we're at the end of a busy November because we have a lot of games this month. We have 1 week with 5 games in it, which is a lot of games for 1 week. So let's see if this team can fall below 500. There's a win though. Dean Arsene has been injured with a pulled groin in Springfield. Not a huge loss. I believe he was the captain of the Springfield team if I remember right. So shout out to Dean Arsene if you guys know who he is. And now Heavy Bullen has been injured with a swollen knee, so this might be the downfall of this team finally. Because Heavy Bullen, maybe he's actually simulating well, which means we're going to rely on Jeff Delorier. Devin Dubnyk doesn't go through waivers, so Devin Dubnyk's going to get called up and get to play some games here this season, which means Brian Pitton will run the AHL for a little bit, but that's interesting, and it signs me just a random European guy that I had to nerf probably down to a 48, so Delorier and Dubnyk, not necessarily the best goaltending tandem in the world, but Devin Dubnyk is going to get NHL games in with that injury to Nikolai Heavy-Bullen. And in AHL, like I said, it's going to be Brian Pitton as the starter, which is kind of funny that he's a starter in the AHL. And a random 48 overall in Halavich, who doesn't really matter too much at all. He's just a filler player, I guess, at this point. All right, so let's see if that makes us lose some games, having Jeff Delorier as a starter. Yep, it definitely does. Yeah, this might be the way we start losing games, is having Happy Bullen out. Maybe if Happy Bullen's simulating good, we should probably look to flip him this year while we have the chance. Let's get Dean Arsene back in for the AHL, just because he's a decent AHL defenseman. I think it was Wild who was out of the lineup, if I remember right. Yeah, I think it was. Let's just get Dean Arsene back in there. He's got such a fun name to say. Like, isn't it just fun to say Dean Arsene? I think he actually played some NHL games with the Oilers around this point, too. Okay, now all of a sudden we're winning some games. There's another loss. Happy Bullen is back, okay? How did Devin Dubnyk do when he was up here? He actually jumped to a 78, so that's kind of interesting. So he's almost NHL ready after playing a few games. Won his first NHL game, had a .908 save percentage and a 2.9 goals against. That's not too bad, to be honest. But we are going to send him back down. There's a good chance that we look to flip away Heavy Bullen maybe this season, and then we could just run those 2 young goalies instead. So Just because obviously Devin Dubnyk, we kind of want him in the NHL at some point, considering he's already 23. Like, Heavy Bullen signed for how many years at this point? 4 years, yeah, we probably want to flip him away soon. And he is simulating actually really good right now. He's got a 9.14 through 5 games. Now, I don't know if the goalies are going to be simulating better in this because I did make it low shooting. I'm doing a little bit of a test just to see how this simulates with low shooting, I think it was. So, hopefully we don't get some crazy goaltending results and then Happy Bullen jumps up to like an 89 or some shit. But at least we're losing a lot more games than we were early in the year. Because early in the year we started off really good, but now we're kind of going back to 500. And there's another injured knee injury. Interesting. Fernando Pisani goes down. It's not long term, but we'll go replace player on that. We do beat the Kings in a shootout. Detroit is a shootout win as well, and we beat Columbus. So not necessarily an ideal way to end off November on a 3-game win streak, as we are 16-10-1, which is probably a lot better than we wanted to be at this point. We are actually first place in the Northwest Division at the moment, so maybe I don't simulate too much more than this, because if we end up over-simulating too much, we're going to make the playoffs. So let's actually take an updated look at the standings here quickly in the Western Conference to see if we're actually currently in a playoff spot, because I don't really want to be in a playoff spot. We probably are in a playoff spot, I would assume. Let's see. Western Conference. We are currently the 3rd best team in the entire Western Conference. Well, we are definitely over-simulating. So I think we'll probably stop simulating soon. I don't want this episode to be too short. What are we on in terms of points percentage? We are 2nd best on points percentage. Oh boy. That's not ideal. That's not ideal. Looks like we're a good defensive team, which makes no sense. I honestly don't know why this team's doing as well as they are. Our power play looks like shit, apparently. Our penalty kill looks good. Huh. Yeah, I don't know if I really want to simulate this good. Maybe we need to make some line adjustments to try and make us worse. But what will we do to make us worse? Like, is some of the young guys developing good or some shit? Cogliano's an 83. Gagne's an 84 still. Brule's still an 81. I don't see really any crazy growth with this team right now. Maybe just Heavy Bullen? Yeah, he's still walking a 9.12. How's Delorier in terms of goaltending? An 8.94. So yeah, we probably want to trade away Nickel Heavy Bullen as soon as possible. And then we could get Dubnyk up here. Because Dubnyk was actually pretty good when he was up here. AHL so far, he's rocking a 931 save percentage through 15 games. So he's been very good in the AHL too. Is that a fluke? No, it's not. It's probably because I'm doing low shooting. It's probably because I'm doing low shooting that he's not got a 931, because Pitten's got a 913. So, and Pitten's a 60 overall. Unless our team's just really good defensively in the minors. I'm not even too sure. Trying to think of what we want to do here. Yeah, I think trading Heavy Bullen in next episode probably makes sense. So probably stop simulating soon would make a lot of sense. So that way we could weigh our options a bit and try and get this team to tank. So maybe let's simulate at least half more of December and see if the team falls off a bit. If they don't, then we'll probably stop simulating at that point. Just because obviously, like I said, I don't really want to be too good. So let's go to the end of this Boston game and we'll see where we're at in terms of record. Hopefully we're closer to 500 at that point. Phoenix to start off the month is Pisani is back, which is kind of good news. We don't really need him in the lineup, but Zach Sortini was playing. And Zach Sortini, when he's in the lineup, usually he's just punching faces, so he's not really doing too much. Boom. And I need to stop the sim because I can't see what's going on. We just beat the Coyotes. God damn it, boys. Why are we winning games? Detroit's also win. I might have to stop the sim earlier than that. 3 straight games against the Red Wings. Okay, it's a little playoff series almost. We lose that 1-4-2. Menard's been injured in the AHL. That kind of sucks because he's one of the better AHLers on our team. Detroit, 5-4 win. Oh my goodness. Columbus, 6-2 win. How is this team doing this good? 22-11-1. So yeah, we're definitely going to stop simulating there. We're definitely going to stop simulating there because this team should not be as good as they currently are, for sure. And I'm not too sure what the main reasoning is. If we go to entire league right now, let's just take a look at how everything's shaping up here. We are currently a top 5 team in the NHL. Should not be that way. Definitely should not be that way. Goals for per game right now, we are the 3rd best offensive team, which I don't understand. Like, who's doing all the offensive load? We got to definitely take a look at some stats. Goals against per game, we are actually not that good defensively. Interesting. So our offense is basically the main thing right now that's going good. But we don't have that great of a power play, still at 14.9%. The Kings have a power play that's over 29%. That's crazy. Penalty kill has been fantastic, though, at 88%. So we have a good penalty kill. We're not a good defensive team 5-on-5. We're not a good power play team, but we're good scoring 5-on-5. So I am confused. We also have 7 shorthanded goals already, which leads the league. 9-7 on home ice, which isn't very good, but 13-4-1 on the road. And we're 9-1 in our last 10 games. So, yeah, at this point, we definitely need to start tearing things down, or else we're going to end up making the playoffs. If we still make the playoffs in year 1, that's not going to be ideal, but at least it's not the strongest draft class. Like, this is Taylor Hall's draft class. It would be nice to have Taylor Hall on this team, but I'm not too sure if this is the really the best draft class anyways, so maybe we wait a little bit before the rebuild begins, but this team should be doing as well. So Horkov on 39 points. He's been very good so far. Obviously, we can't really flip him away, which is unfortunate, unless we get him to waive that clause, which I don't think he'd want to with how this team is simulating at the moment, so we might be stuck with him. Cogliano's doing actually really good too. 30 points, 34 games. He's developing probably quite nicely. Yeah, I'm excited for Cogliano. I think he's definitely a player I could hold on to quite long term. Gagne's on 27 points as well, so these 2 young guys are doing well. Comrie's on 19 points, but he's -9, so maybe we still look to flip Mike Comrie for sure, considering he's only in the last year of his deal. We could probably get something for him, because he's doing okay in terms of production. His defensive stats not very good, but helping out offensively. Brule's on 19 points, similar results for him. I do still want to kind of hold on to Brule, but maybe he's somebody you could flip away. He's only 22, so he would be a nice piece to kind of build around as like a 3rd-line center for the future. And we also have Marc-Antoine Pouliot with the 9 points in 34 games. He's not very that bad either. I'd say for sure if we're looking to flip people out of these centers, Comrie's the guy. Horkov probably wouldn't want to get flipped at this point, so I don't even think it's worth asking him out, waiving his clause. From a left-wing perspective, O'Sullivan's on 32 points in 34 games, so Patrick O'Sullivan might be simulating too good right now, which is not ideal. He's a good fit on this top line too, apparently, but he's only signed for 1 more year. I don't know if he's a pending UFA. I think he's an RFA at the end of the year. I'll double-check on that. But if he's a pending RFA, it would be okay to hold on to him probably, but if he's a pending UFA, obviously flipping him probably makes sense, but we could always flip him away even if he has RFA rights, because he's outperforming Dustin Penner even. Dustin Penner's another guy I could still flip this year. I was planning on maybe waiting a few years, but he's probably making our team simulate too good. Morrow's on 10 points. He's still a guy that could get flipped away as well. He is signed for 1 more season after this. And then Nilsson's done not much at all. So not good stuff from our 4th line, which is good to see, because we don't want to be a good team. But some of our players in our top 6 are doing too well. And then from a right wing perspective, so far, Hemsky's been good, 33 points in 34 games. Is it too early to trade Ales Hemsky? I feel like it is still, but we could trade him this year instead of waiting those 2 years or whatever. So, not too sure what I want to do with that. Pisani on 9 points so far, 31 games, not bad. And Stortini played 3 games, didn't do really anything. From a defensive standpoint, Soure's been insanely good. He's over point per game, which means he's our highest scoring player, I think, on the team. And he's a plus 27. So Sheldon Soure is maybe a guy that we look to flip. He's a good player, don't get me wrong, but he's 33 years old, so he should be dropping off soon too. So yeah, he's definitely a guy I'd look to flip because he's had an insanely good year compared to everybody else. Tom Gilbert's on 18 points, which is pretty solid. You have Ryan Whitney on 10 points, -12. Not the craziest stats from Whit. Johnson on 7 points, not bad. Smead on 5. Strubik on 3. At least the young top 6 defenders, like Johnson's kind of young. I guess Smead's young. They're doing decent plus-minus wise, but Sheldon Soure is definitely a complete outlier there. And then from a goaltending perspective, the goaltending numbers are starting to come down from Heavy Bullen, which is a good sign. On a 908, Delorier's on a 901. But yeah, probably would make sense to trade away Heavy Bullen this year if we can. So I think for sure Heavy Bullen needs to be dealt. Souray probably needs to be dealt. And then from a forward perspective, I'd lean towards maybe trading Patrick O'Sullivan. And definitely I'd trade away Comrie, maybe Penner this year. Maybe Morrow. Really tough to say. But we do have guys in the AHL that we could always call up to, like Liam Reddix, for instance. So we'll see what we do with that. Let's take a look at around the league, just see who's leading at this point in the season, just for fun. It's probably like the Caps top line, right? Nope, it is not. Anze Kopitar leads the league in points with 57 right now. Ryan Smith is up there too, former Oiler, of course. Crosby, 7. Medano. Interesting. What about most goals so far? Zach Parise has already got 29 goals. Only 8 assists, so Parise might outscore Ovechkin this year. Marian Hossa is also up there. All right. Best defenseman for points so far is Sheldon Souray. So we currently have a Norris Trophy winning defenseman, but we're thinking of flipping him away just to make us worse, which is kind of insane. So, yeah, I was not expecting Souray to do this well this season so far, but he's been good. Only 3 power play points, too, so he's been just very good 5-on-5. From a goaltending perspective, the best goalie so far in terms of wins, Tim Thomas. Jesus. Tim Thomas is locked in. Most shutouts so far, Lundqvist with 4. Best save percentage by a starter right now is Tim Thomas. Tim Thomas might end up winning the Vezina this season at .930 save percentage through 26 games. And then he also has a sub 2 goals against average, which is also pretty insane. So shout out to Tim Thomas. Any goalie goals so far this season? Probably not, right? No goalie goals so far. Most assists so far is 2 from Thomas, Backstrom, Anderson, Niemi, and Razor Ray Emery. Best rookie so far, obviously this is broken. Best actual rookie in the 2010 season would be, I don't even know who. Who is an actual rookie this year? Yeah, I honestly don't even know. A lot of these guys were rookies in around this point, but yeah, I don't even know. All right, so there is that. Let's take a look at some potential trade options here on the trading block, and then we'll also see what maybe we could get for those guys that we have potentially circled the trade. Let's see what their values are like here first and foremost before we end off this episode too. Penner's still got a good chunk of value, so moving Penner now might make sense. Hemsky still has good value. Souray has a lot of value too. I think Souray's a no-brainer to move. Aside from that, let's see. Brule, I wouldn't move necessarily. Patrick O'Sullivan's got some value. He's got some value. I think he's a penny RFA, like I said, though. I don't really want to overpay on him too much, but he's been a good player for us. Comrie has a good chunk of value, too, so I think Comrie definitely could get moved. Morrow maybe could get moved, too, because he has value. And he's probably going to drop off soon, too. From that goaltending perspective, what do we got on Heavy Bullen? Not a crazy amount of value, but we could run Dubnyk and Delorier in the NHL if we really want to. So, yeah, I think we're definitely going to look into flipping away some key pieces in next episode just to try and get this team down, unless we want to make the playoffs year one, which I don't really think is a good idea. Because the draft class, like I said, it's not the strongest one on paper, but there is some steals in this draft. Taylor Hall is the best player in the class. There's also Sagan, this generated Olsen guy. So there's some decent players in it. It would be nice to get one of these medium elite kind of guys if we can. So, well, at least since we're still early in the season, we should be able to make our team not simulate good. We could also fire our coach and get ourselves a coach that's actually not good fit for our team, and that will make us definitely tank if we want to. But let's see what we got in terms of players on the block. Is there anybody interesting that would be worth like trading Souray for like a top prospect or something like that? Anaheim's got McElhinney on the block. They also have Kyle Palmieri, Maxime Massenauer, and Patrick Holland. Or not Patrick Holland, Peter Holland. Why did I say Patrick Holland? Brandon McMillan as well. So some prospects there. Nobody too insane. Maybe Palmieri is decent enough to trade for, but I don't know if I would trade Souray to the Ducks where he actually played or not. We head to the Atlanta Thrashers. Jason Krogh, Tim Stapleton. Not really what we're looking for at this point. Michael Ryder's on the block. Damn, that's actually kind of surprising. And also kind of surprising is the Bruins do have Tuukka Rask on the block, probably because Tim Thomas is doing so well, but Tuukka Rask would be great, but obviously he'd make us too good right now. That's the only problem. So I don't think trading away Happy Bullen to get Tuukka Rask really makes a lot of sense for us because we don't want to be a good team right now. So as much as I like Rask, I don't think I would trade for him at the moment. Lane McDermott's also there. Joe Colborne, not bad. And Jordan Caron. Buffalo, Nathan Gerby's on the block. Same with Paul Byron, Corey Trop, Marcus Foligno, and Zach Cassian. Some okay options there. Calgary has Yoni Orshio on the block. That's pretty much it. Carolina has Tyler Arneson, who I guess they must have signed. Eric Parent, who they have signed. Tom Kostopoulos, Radek Bonk, who they signed. And Justin Peters on the block, okay? Justin Peters is not a bad backup option if I didn't want to be playing Dubnyk already, but I probably would want to play Dubnyk soon. Corey Crawford's on the block. Once again, another good goalie prospect, but he might make us too good right now. He's been playing in the AHL in Rockford a little bit this season and also played a little bit in the NHL. Yeah, I think maybe because I made it low shooting and low scoring, some of these goalies have really ridiculous numbers, which is kind of cool, but maybe I should address that for next season. Chicago also has Skilly, Klinkhammer, Ben Smith, and Brandon Bollig on the block, so no Hjalmarsson, but some interesting names there. Colorado has John Michael Lyles that would make us too good right now. Same with Brett Clark, Ruslan Soleil, Tom Pricing. Columbus has more veterans on the block. Sammy Paulson, Richard Zednik, Chris Clark, Derek McKenzie. All right. The Dallas Stars have Yuri Letnin on the block, Victor Kozlov, Toby Peterson. Yeah, it's a lot of veterans. There is some good prospects here. Like Thomas Tatar is not a bad option, but what do we trade to Detroit to get Tatar or Nyquist? And Nyquist, is he going to pan out being already 20 years old? Tough to say. Justin Abdelkader is actually not a bad option. You know, Justin Abdelkader actually could be a pretty good fit for our bottom six. Yes, he is a young bottom six option right now. Like, he would be a good one to put on that fourth line right now and maybe develop into being a third line guy at best. Yeah, I don't mind that. Justin Abdelkader might be somebody to look into. He has not played a single game all season. He must be a healthy scratch in Detroit, too, which is not ideal. So, I don't know what it would cost us. Probably not a ton. We could send maybe, like, Mike Comrie to Detroit if they're cap compliant still, and bring in Abdelkader. I'll definitely look into Justin Abdelkader. I think that's a good option for our team. Because he's not going to make us much better right now, but he could develop into something for us. So, Jan Murzak also on the block. Yeah, I think Abdelkader is somebody I'll look into for sure. Florida, not really too much. Just a bunch of veteran AHL kind of guys. LA has Justin Williams on the block. Don't do it, LA. He's the reason why you won some Stanley Cups. Rob Scuderi, Freddie Modine, Jeff Halpern, and Raitis Ivanons. Okay. Kudobin's on the block. Don't really need to go on their goalie prospect right now. Matt Hackett's on the block. Montreal has Scott Gomez on the block. I don't think he's going to get dealt because of his contract. David Desharnais, that's another not bad option. Not a bad option. He is in the AHL right now. Has he played any NHL games? No. But yeah, Desharnais is not bad either. He's not bad at all. He's a bit of a smaller guy, so he's not going to be super physical, but it would be interesting having David Desharnais as well, like built into this team, like him, Justin Abdelkader, those type of guys. Yannick Weber is also not a bad option for a young defenseman. Like if we wanted to trade Souray to anywhere, we could trade him to Montreal, but I think Montreal's defense, of course, quite strong, so doesn't really make a lot of sense for Souray to go there. But Weber would be interesting too. Nashville has Blake Jeffrey on the block, Craig Smith, Gabriel Bork, Ryan Ellis is on the block, and Matthias Ekholm is as well on the block. These are two good defensive prospects to actually bring in if we wanted guys for the future. But I don't know if their value would be too much. But both these guys could end up becoming something really good. New Jersey, Adam Henrique's on the block. That's another really solid prospect. Not NHL ready yet, but he should be soon. Should develop into being a good two-way forward. Zharkov on the block, Vasyunov, Nick Palmieri, Matt Halschuk. Some young options there in New Jersey. The Islanders have Rick DiPietro on the block. Of course they do, but yeah, he's not very good. He's actually playing in the AHL, so they're not even using him as an NHL goaltender, which is kind of funny. So we'll see if Rick DiPietro ever resurfaces back in the NHL. The Rangers have Derek Stepan on the block and Chris Kreider. So there is some prospect options to bring in, which is good, but I'm not too sure exactly who I would prioritize bringing in. Philadelphia, Pat Maroon. It's kind of funny seeing guys like Pat Maroon so young, though, in this, considering he just retired in real life. Adrian Coyne. Yeah, a lot of veterans on the block, but we're not looking for those vets. We're looking for these younger kind of guys like Nick Johnson, maybe. I don't even know. San Jose, Ferrario, McLaren. It'd be funny to bring in Fraser McLaren just to punch faces, but... Tampa, just some picks. Toronto has Thomas Caberlet on the block, Francois Beauchemin, Garnet Exelby, Jeff Finger, and Jonas Frogren. A lot of defensemen there. Vancouver, Kevin Connaughton. Washington, Michael Neuvirth on the block. Marcus Johansson, damn. Some good options there in Washington, too, to trade for. Like Orlov as well. So, there's definitely prospects we could bring in, but I'm not too sure who you guys' favorites would be. Like I said, I think I would look into maybe, at least right now, looking at Abdelkader and maybe Desharnais as guys that could actually just play on a roster right now and maybe develop into something down the road. So maybe those are the guys to look into. I don't know how much they would cost us, though. Probably not a ton. Like, if we go to Detroit right now, what do they want for somebody like Justin Abdelkader? I would assume not a ton, right? Ladislav Smid, I wouldn't really trade them Ladislav Smid. I mean, it's not a bad move, but it's pretty much just a lateral move at that point if we did that. I kind of like to hold on to Smid for maybe a little bit longer, but it could potentially work. But they wouldn't, I guess they don't want Mike Comrie. But I was thinking of maybe about trading away Comrie. What about Montreal with Desharnais? Would Desharnais cost us a lot? Let's see. No trades found with an open block. Damn, that's kind of surprising. So, I still don't think he would cost us a ton because he's got a low value. What about some of those other prospects like Ryan Ellis or Matthias Ekholm? Like, we could already get Ekholm into Edmonton before he even makes his debut, which would be kind of funny. Ryan Ellis, Yossi's also still on the block, but he's got way too much value. There's just no way I'm going to be able to get somebody like Roman Josi without giving up an arm and a leg. Ryan Ellis right now, no trades found on an open block. So, Nashville, not really liking our trade block either. What about Josi? No. Damn, that's unfortunate. I wanted to see if there's at least some potential offers. Anybody else here that I was looking at potentially for younger guys? I know there's a lot of teams with younger options, but I'm just curious on if there's any teams that actually have any offers for us. Doesn't look like it. Don't want to be good right now either. Washington had Orlov. Let's check on Orlov and Karl Alzner. Orlov, nothing found. Yeah, it looks like we'd have to look on our own in a sense for these type of deals. Alzner would not cost us a ton. We could definitely bring in Karl Alzner if we really want to. We just have to give up Strudwick and a 6th round pick, a 6th in Johnson, which I wouldn't do in Morrow. I'd probably do Strudwick and a 6th, because then literally Alzner could take Strudwick's NHL roster spot, and then we just give up an extra 6th rounder. But is that too much to give up for somebody like Karl Alzner? Maybe. Because Karl Alzner is 76 overall right now, and he's 21. He's got high 6 potential, so maybe become something, but he is a DFD. He's not going to be much of an offensive threat, but he could be somebody maybe. Yeah, there's a lot of teams with young options at least to trade for, but I'm not too sure who I would want to pick up for this team. And like I said, I think I know who we want to flip away, but I'm not too sure if we're going to be able to get good returns on them. Like, let's take a look actually at the flying trade option again and see what teams would throw at us right now for, say, Sheldon Souray. Because Sheldon Souray is probably the big one to flip away this year. Nothing found on an open block. Are you kidding me? How is there nothing found on an open block? Let me adjust our trade block or something like that, just so I could at least see if we could get some offers, so we could potentially take some of these in the next episode. So, let's go remove, and let's just keep that there. Let's go wants. Oh my goodness. This game screens are sometimes too laggy, and it's friggin' annoying as shit. Let's go to forwards here. We aren't going to go second line forwards. We're going to go any, and we are going to go 17 to 28. Let's go 3 to 5 stars. Sure. With that one. And we'll do defensively as well. We don't need a top 4 defenseman. We just want somebody that's going to maybe develop into being something decent. And then goalie prospects as well. Not that goalie prospects are super important really right now, but we'll still see if we could find any interesting offers thrown at us. So let's see what is potentially thrown at us for Sure, if there's anything whatsoever. We might, like I said, have to make our own deals up, which kind of annoys me, but whatever. So Sure with an open block, what does it say now? There you go, now we're getting actual offers. Okay, so we have 3 offers for Sheldon Sure if we want to do a deal for Sheldon Sure. So Anaheim is prepared to give us Jake Gardner's rights, which he could become a top 4 defenseman, a second-round pick in this year's draft, and Dan Sexton. That's a pretty solid first offer. The second offer we got is from the Nashville Predators. They'd be giving us Ryan Ellis, who's obviously a top prospect. They'd give us a second-round pick in next year's draft, so 2011, and Craig Smith, which is also a pretty good prospect, too. That one's kind of intriguing, too. But does Nashville really need a top-end defenseman like Sheldon Sure? I'm not even too sure. And then the other one is Matthias Ekholm, a second, and a Smith. So it's either we get Ekholm or Ellis from Nashville, and then obviously Craig Smith in the second, or we get Jake Gardner a second and Dan Sexton. If we look at this Anaheim one first and foremost, so you guys can kind of see what Dan Sexton's looking like right now. Sexton, I think, is okay, if I remember right. Yeah, Dan Sexton's actually pretty solid. He's 22 years old, 78 overall, so he would fit into our team right away. And we could maybe get him to develop. I'm not too sure. He's got only low 9 potential, but he would be kind of a nice little tack on. That second round pick, I don't know who it would be, but I think we could get ourselves a low late steal, at least with that pick. Like, I think we could still draft maybe somebody like Zach Hyman with that pick. And then Jake Gardner is looking like this right now, a 72 at 19, which is pretty solid. He's not AHL eligible because I couldn't make him an unsigned American prospect, but he's an offensive defenseman prospect, which is just basically exactly what Sure is right now as an offensive defenseman. So that deal could potentially work with the Ducks. The other offer we were getting was from Nashville, and it was Ryan Ellis or Ekholm, and then Craig Smith as well. So if we look at those guys on paper right now, you guys probably already saw when we were looking through this before. Ryan Ellis is a 69 at 18, so he's a bit younger. He's a lower overall, of course, than Jake Gardner. And then Ekholm is also the same age as him, as Gardner, I think, but lower overall. So these guys probably wouldn't be as good, but the tack on of Craig Smith is better, probably long haul at least it could be, than Dan Sexton, 68 at 20 with high 9 potential. So it's either we're banking on Craig Smith to become something decent and we get a worse defensive prospect, or we get a better defensive prospect right now and somebody that would also jump into our bottom 6 probably right away this season and could be easily a replacement for, say, somebody on that right wing side that we want to get rid of. Like, actually, maybe not necessarily on the right wing side. Like, he could be a replacement for Fernando Pisani for sure, but he could also be a replacement for somebody else in that bottom 6, like Nilsson, Morrow. He could also be a replacement for one of these centers like Mike Comrie. So I don't really know which of those 2 deals I would do in terms of that. Aside from that, is there anybody else that I want to look at in terms of value? Like, if I go like Trade Finder and see what Comrie would fetch us, would he fetch us a lot at the moment? Probably not, right? Let's see. Comrie could get us literally a third in Dan Sexton if we want Dan Sexton still. 4th in Tim Stapleton in a 5th, a 2nd in Lane McDermott, Michael Ryder, which is kind of a crazy one, Jordan Caron, a 3rd rounder in Darren Hadar, not Dan Hadar, why did I say Dan Hadar? Ruslan Soleil, 4th round pick, a lot of veterans. We could get a 3rd rounder in Justin Applicator from Detroit for Mike Comrie, which is probably what I would lean towards doing. Like I said, it would be a nice little addition to have Applicator. Like, maybe we could run a 4th line of Applicator, Sexton if we do the Anaheim trade. And then also if we find a way to get David Desharnais in, we could have just a young 4th line like that or even a young third line or something like that too. See, Desharnais would be another option and a 4th rounder for Comrie. There's a 3rd in Yannick Weber. Yeah, we definitely can make some moves. Definitely make some moves and get some good prospects in with some of these deals, which is exciting. Obviously, I don't want to fleece too many teams out of good prospects, but we definitely could find ourselves some people to make us a lot weaker. What else could we flip away next episode, potentially? Dustin Penner, what would he fetch us? 2 2nd-rounders and Tim Stapleton from Atlanta. Lyles in a 3rd, no. Ryan Ellis a 2nd and Craig Smith. That's the exact same thing as Shelton Souray. Same thing as Souray. Boschman a 3rd and a 4th, nope. Whoa, okay. Well, that wouldn't be kind of fleecing, but also very nice. Washington is prepared to give us Braden Holtby because they do have a logjam in net with Varlamov, Neuwirth, and currently Jose Theodore. They would give us Braden Holtby, Marcus Johansson, and Carl Alzner just for Dustin Penner. Which Penner did play for the Capitals, if I remember right, so that would be a fantastic deal to take, but I don't know if that's kind of a little bit unrealistic. But Washington is trying to win a Stanley Cup right now. They are 28-7-1, so they don't care too much about getting rid of Holtby. But Holtby is a 77/20. He might make us too good way too quick, but he would be fantastic. He would be great. Then there's Johansson, who's a 73/19, should develop into a top 6 prospect. And Carl Alzner, who we are looking at already. So, damn, we might be able to get some pretty solid players in. But I don't know if we really need Holtby fully because we have Devin Dubnyk. But Dubnyk, I don't know if he's going to pan out, really. So, that's an interesting one. Let's also look at Alex Hemsky for value. What would Hemsky get us right now if we wanted to trade away him? Nothing. Nothing found. Damn. All right. So, I think we have our options to trade away. We could also maybe trade away Witt or Gilbert if we want to. But I don't know if it's something we need to do if we trade away Souray. And then goalies, Habib Bullen's the last one, I guess. What would he get us? A 4th and a 5th from Atlanta, or a 3rd and Michael Neuwirth from Washington. So if we don't do the other trade with Washington for Holtby, we could always just get rid of Habib Bullen and get Neuwirth in. But Neuwirth isn't going to be much value to us just because we currently have Delorier and Dubnyk. So I'm not too sure if we really need a goalie like that right now. But there's some intriguing offers to look into for next episode for sure, which is good. Is there anything else we want to take a look at before we end this episode? I don't think so. If we look at our current coaching staff, though, is our current coach too good of a fit for this team? Let me see him again. Kessler, 62. Because I kind of want to make us worse, so I might want to honestly find a new coach for this team just to make us worse. But if we make us some trades, we should fall off a bit. You would think, at least. What is the morale looking like on this team right now? Oh, damn. Strudwick and Whitney are both leaders on this team, apparently. Was not expecting Ryan Whitney, of all people, to be a leader. Low morale from Ryan Jones. That's okay. How about the AHL? Ryan O'Mara is a leader down there. Okay. Maybe Ryan O'Mara should stay down there as an AHL captain, in that sense. How's the AHL team actually doing, out of curiosity? 17-11-6. But they're 2-5-3 in their last 10 games. Damn. All right. Well, anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Edmonton Oilers Throwback 2010 franchise mode. So in next episode, we might make some trades already just to basically make us worse during the season. But it looks like we should be able to get some pretty good prospects in if we want to. Like if we trade away Penner, getting in somebody like Braden Holtby in net would be actually pretty insane to get already. I don't know if I really like that trade because it's kind of unrealistic, but at the same time, we're trying to build up the prospect pool of this team as much as possible. So getting a lot of value for Dustin Penner sounds like a fun time. So anything down below, and I'll see you guys next time.